Well, I began with Evening All, which, as you will remember, was how Dixon of Dock Green used to start when that was broadcast. An image of policing that is perhaps familiar to us all. Is it too sentimental? A damning 363-page report into the culture and standards of the Metropolitan Police has laid bare its deep and widespread failings. Baroness Casey spent a year examining the Yard's culture and practices and concluded that it's failing women and children, discrimination is rife, and public confidence has been shattered. The report found that fridges and freezers containing samples of evidence from victims and survivors were overflowing and could barely shut. It also found that during the summer heatwave in 2022, one of the freezers containing evidence had broken down, leaving all alleged cases of rape dropped, owing to lack of evidence. Britain's top police officer refused to resign and vowed to turn Scotland Yard around after Baroness Casey said its ranks are riven with racism, misogyny and homophobia. I'm delighted to be joined now by my panel, Emma Webb of the Common Sense Society and the journalist Jonathan Steele. Thank you so much for joining me. Before I left the House of Commons this evening, I spoke to a couple of police officers there. And meeting them day in, day out, these are really good people. I used to say good morning to Keith Palmer, who was murdered on duty outside the House of Commons. Jonathan, how can the police have come to this? How can this report have come about?
Well, I think there's just been this chronic racism and misogyny in the force. I don't like to use the word institutional. I think Mark Rowley is correct to say it's the wrong word. I don't think it means anything. Let's say there's endemic racism or embedded racism, but institutional means nothing. But the fact is there are too many white male police officers, not enough black, brown people, not enough women, and it's created this culture, the locker room culture, if you like, where people banter with male jokes and almost in front of the few women police officers there are to provoke them. It's a disgrace, and you've mentioned in your introduction the thing about rape allegations and rape investigations, which was almost like Keystone Cops not being able to shut the fridge door because there was so much evidence just rammed in there.
And Emma, is this a question of leadership, or is it that does it all come back to leadership? They're not employing the right people, they're not managing people correctly? Because, as I say, the individual constables that one meets always seem very sensible, friendly and helpful.
And whenever I have had professional interactions with the police through my work, you know, they are salt-of-the-earth people who care about law and order. And I agree, I think Mark Rowley was right to take a step back from the word institutional, because what do we mean when we say that something is institutionally racist or misogynistic? It's a word that is deeply ideologically loaded, and it implies that if something is institutionally rotten, it implies that you can take all of the people out of it and it would still continue to be racist, misogynistic and so on. And I don't think that that is a correct understanding of the situation. I think you would be right to say that the Metropolitan Police is clearly riddled with failure and that public trust is at an all-time low with good reason, and the issue of vetting, I think, is extremely important. And the Met at the moment are going through re-vetting all of their officers, and I think that they are taking this issue very seriously. But it's quite clear, and you mentioned that the fridges and the samples taken from rape kits, which are, you know, the primary evidence in any rape trial, that puts in jeopardy all of those women for whom those rape kits are the primary evidence. Obviously, this is not to dismiss the extraordinary failings of the police, and I think there are lots of reasons, aside from those in the Casey report, as to why the public's trust in the police is lower. We talked previously about NCHIs and cracking down on people's tweets rather than burglaries and things like that. But I think that to use the phrase institutional is incorrect, and we should steer clear of it.
So, John, is it a matter of competence? They're simply incompetent, and that's what led to the issues with the fridges and the loss of evidence?
Well, there must be an element of incompetence about it. Otherwise, it's hard to explain what it is. It's not ill will by the police themselves. It's just that they're not up to the job a lot of the time.
And how do you change this? What is it? Why do we look back at the police that we used to have and think that they were competent and honest and effective? What has gone wrong? Emma, were you saying that it's wokeness that has made it go wrong?
I think there are lots of reasons. I think that you mentioned leadership, and I think that when people look back with nostalgia on the police force of the past, you think of the Bobby on the beat, you think of that personal relationship that people had with their local police officers, and that's no longer what we have. I think that the Metropolitan Police has become far, and not just the Metropolitan Police, but the police force in this country, as many institutions, have become far too top-down. And have lost that relationship with the people that they serve. I think that there are all sorts of problems, and when we talk about the particular issue with the fridges, you know, those fridges should have been replaced. This is also about the allocation of funding and money, and this is a case throughout all of our institutions and throughout, you know, various quangos and so on. Public money should be, you know, every penny should be used effectively, and I think that money is being spent on the wrong things and not going to the right things.
And that was one of the things that came out of the report, that there are certain areas of the police that are almost unlimitedly funded, and then they have a freezer that breaks down. So the armed police seem to be able to get whatever resources they need.
There seems to be a massive shortage of cash over the last 12 years of austerity. The police budgets have been cut.
But that's not what the report said. The report said that the Diplomatic Protection Squad had all the money it needed for overtime.
Well,
and
they do,
was,
but other departments don't.
That's right. So it wasn't the police as a whole that was short of money. It was the way it was divided up, and that's a management decision, not a government
but more than 100
decision.
Police stations have closed, apparently. 126, I think, was the figure given. This is the backroom staff. I was just talking to a policeman on the way here, who actually was the taxi driver's son was a copper. You see it, and the copper's son of the driver said the backroom staff have all been sacked or retired because there's no money for them. So the people on the beat not only have to do what they're doing publicly, visibly, they also then have to go back into the office, write it all up, type it all up, which used to be done by secretarial clerical staff.
Well, thank you very much.